You are killing your own mother. You are cold-blooded. That was the last thing she screamed at me as the heavy oak door slammed shut in her face. It was raining. Not the romantic, soft rain you see in the movies, but a bone-chilling, freezing November drizzle that soaked right through to your skin. I stood there on my grandfather's front porch, watching the moving truck carrying my mother's life turn the corner and disappear into the gray mist. I should have been crying. I should have felt guilty. That guilt was something she had planted in my brain for 20 years, like a microchip designed to control me. But standing there, watching my own mother become homeless because of a signature I had just put on a legal document, I didn't feel guilt. I felt light. The relief was so heavy it almost brought me to my knees. 6 months ago, I was a completely different person. I was the girl who apologized when someone else stepped on her foot. I was the quiet one. I was my mother's backup bank account. I was the family's plan B. But everything changed because of 3 text messages. 3 simple digital notifications that buzzed in my pocket on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, informing me that my entire life had been sold off for a cheap price. Specifically, $300. Hi everyone, my name is Sophie. If you think the phrase family comes first is an absolute law that can never be broken, I need you to sit down and pour yourself a hot cup of tea. Because I am going to tell you how a vintage watch and the ferocious love of an 80-year-old man taught me the most expensive lesson of my life. Sometimes, to save yourself from drowning, you have to be the one to light the match and burn the bridge back home. Let's rewind the clock to the moment before my phone vibrated. I want you to visualize the scene. It was the university library during finals week. The air was thick with the smell of old paper, dust, and burnt coffee. I was sitting in the darkest corner, hunched over a scratched wooden desk. In front of me was a second-hand laptop that I had worked 3 simultaneous jobs to buy. I worked the morning shift as a waitress, the afternoon shift as a tutor, and the weekend shift washing dishes in a restaurant kitchen. Why was I working like a maniac while my classmates were partying? Because in my house, the laws of physics regarding money were strange. My mother's money belonged to my cousin, Jessica. My grandfather's money was managed by my mother. And my money? My money was the family emergency fund. Have you ever lived with the feeling that you aren't a human being, but a walking life insurance policy? My mother, Linda, always had a favorite phrase: Jessica is so fragile. Jessica is 24 years old. Jessica has a husband. Jessica has a healthy body. But in my mother's eyes, Jessica was a porcelain doll that needed to be protected from the harsh reality of the world. And me? I was concrete. I was steel. I was the one who could handle it. I remember once, when I was 16, I had a fever of 104 degrees. My mother touched my forehead, sighed, and said, "Take some Tylenol and lie down, Sophie. I have to go to Jessica's house. She had a fight with her boyfriend and she's very sad." I lay there shivering under my blanket, wondering if I was actually her biological child. Back to the library on that fateful day. I was writing the most important thesis paper of my degree. My eyes were burning from lack of sleep. My stomach was cramping because I had only eaten a single sandwich since sunrise. But I was happy. Why? Because I was about to go home. I had requested 3 days off work. I planned to go home, curl up in my soft duvet on my small bed, look at the wooden shelves I had built with my own hands, and most importantly, I would finally be able to wear my grandfather's Patek Philippe watch. That watch was my soul. It was my most prized possession. But because I was terrified of scratching it at my dishwashing job, I had hidden it deep inside a secret compartment under my bed. That was the biggest mistake of my life. The phone vibrated against the hard wood of the table. BZZZT BZZZT. I glanced at the screen. The sender name flashed, Mom. My heart skipped a beat. Not out of excitement, but out of a conditioned reflex of fear. A text from Mom usually meant trouble. I need money for the electric bill. Jessica needs diapers for the baby. The car broke down. I swiped the screen to unlock it. Message number 1. I sold your bed, laptop, desk, and everything in your room to support Jessica. Time seemed to stop. You know that effect in action movies where a bomb goes off and all the sound is sucked out of the room? That is exactly what I felt. I read it again. Everything in your room. My brain tried to process the information logically but failed. My bed? The place where I cried myself to sleep? My desk? The place where I pulled all-nighters to keep my scholarship? Before I could even take a breath, the second text arrived like a physical punch to the gut. Message number 2. She needs the money to raise her child. Family comes first. I knew you were strong. I knew you would understand. You were strong. Those 3 words. Those 3 words felt like a knife twisting in my chest. Because I am strong, I don't deserve to own furniture? Because I am strong, I don't need a bed to sleep in? My hands started to shake. The trembling started in my fingertips, shot up my spine, and made my teeth chatter together. But then, a cold, icy terror washed over me, drowning out the anger. The watch. I didn't care about the cheap plywood bed. I didn't care about the old laptop. But my grandfather's watch, that was my identity. He had given it to me on my 18th birthday, secretly pressing it into my palm when my mother wasn't looking. He had whispered, "Keep this safe. This is your freedom." I typed back, my fingers slipping on the glass screen because of the cold sweat, "Mom, please tell me you didn't touch Grandpa's watch." I stared at the screen. The 3 little dots bounced. Up. Down. Up. Down. Every second felt like a century. I held my breath. I prayed. For the first time in my life, I prayed to God that my mother had a single ounce of conscience left. Message number 3. It was sold for $300. Don't be dramatic. If you don't like it, you can live in the storage room when you come home. This place belongs to your cousin now. Snap. I heard something fracture inside of me. $300. She sold a family heirloom worth thousands of dollars. She sold the most sacred memory of her own father. She sold her daughter's heart for $300. That was the price of a fancy dinner for Jessica. I didn't scream. I didn't slam the table. The reaction to absolute, devastating pain is not noise. It is a deadly silence. My vision blurred. Tears couldn't even fall because my throat felt like someone was strangling me. I stood up and packed my books. My movements were robotic, mechanical. Live in the storage room. Don't be dramatic. I walked out to the parking lot. The rain had started. I sat in the driver's seat of my car and rested my forehead against the steering wheel. And that was when the scream finally escaped. It was a guttural, raw, agonizing scream that I had been holding back for 20 years. I screamed for the bed that was sold. I screamed for the watch that was gone. But most of all, I screamed because I realized a brutal truth: I was an orphan who had a mother. I didn't drive to my mother's house. I knew if I went there, if I saw my empty room, I would do something crazy. Or worse, I would collapse completely. My instinct told me there was only one safe place left in the world. 2 hours later, I pulled into the driveway of my grandfather, Robert. His house was small, a brick cottage with smoke rising from the chimney and rose bushes that he pruned himself. I dragged my feet up the steps, my clothes soaked with rain and tears. I knocked on the door. The door opened. Grandpa stood there. He was wearing his old moss green cardigan, holding a newspaper, his reading glasses slipping down his nose. He looked at me. He didn't need me to say a single word. He saw my swollen eyes, my shaking shoulders, and my shattered soul. "Sophie?" His voice was deep and warm, but full of instant worry. "My God, child, what happened to you?" I couldn't speak. I just fell forward into his arms. I buried my face in his chest, smelling the familiar scent of pipe tobacco and peppermint, and I sobbed like a 3-year-old. Mom. Mom sold everything. Grandpa, she sold it all. I choked out the words between gasps. He didn't ask a million questions. He ushered me inside and sat me down in his worn-out leather armchair, the one I used to sit in to read him stories when I was little. He took a thick wool blanket and wrapped it around me tight. He went into the kitchen, and I heard the whistle of the kettle. He returned with a mug of hot tea and placed it in my frozen hands. Then, he did something that broke me all over again. He knelt. He was 80 years old, his knees were full of arthritis, but he lowered himself down onto the cold wooden floor so he could look up into my face. His rough, liver-spotted hands covered my ice-cold hands. "Breathe, Sophie," he said, his voice steady as a rock. "Tell me. What did Linda do?" I shakily unlocked my phone, opened the text thread, and handed it to him. I held my breath as I watched him read. I saw his pupils contract when he read the first message. I saw his jaw muscles clench tight when he read the second message. And when he read the line about the watch, I saw something collapse in his eyes. It wasn't anger. It was pain. The pure, undiluted pain of a father realizing he had failed to raise a decent human being. He closed his eyes and took a deep, shuddering breath. When he opened them, the pain was gone. Replaced by a cold, sharp fire that I had never seen before. "She sold the Patek Philippe," he said. It wasn't a question. It was a confirmation. "For $300? "I'm sorry, Grandpa," I cried, looking down at the floor. "I failed to protect it. I'm so sorry." "No." He lifted my chin, forcing me to look him in the eye. "Listen to me, Sophie. You are not at fault. You are the victim of a greed that I have tolerated for far too long." He stood up, groaning slightly from the pain in his legs, and walked over to the wall where a family portrait from 10 years ago was hanging. He took the picture down and placed it face down on the table. A final, decisive action. Then he walked to the safe in the corner of the room. The clicking of the combination dial echoed in the silent room. He pulled out a thick, black leather folder. "I have been waiting for this day," he said, his voice old but powerful. "I hoped it would never come. I thought if I sheltered your mother, if I paid her rent, if I paid her debts, she would learn to love you. But I was wrong. I have been feeding a monster." He slammed the folder down on the table in front of me. "This is the deed to the house your mother lives in. It is in my name. These are the bank statements of the last 20 years of allowance I gave her. And this." He pulled out a crisp, fresh document, "is the will I was planning to update." He looked at me, his eyes burning with determination. "Tonight, you sleep here in the guest room. Tomorrow, at 8 a.m., we are going to the lawyer. You will never have to sleep in a storage room, Sophie. From this moment on, the only person who will be out on the street is your mother." That night, lying in my grandfather's guest room, listening to the rain against the window, for the first time in years, I didn't feel afraid. I felt protected. I realized that losing a watch was a cheap price to pay to find my own self-worth and to discover who truly loved me. The next morning. The lawyer's office was cold, with floor-to-ceiling glass walls. My mother walked in, wearing oversized sunglasses, dragging Jessica and her crying baby behind her. She looked more annoyed than worried. "Dad, what is this drama?" She threw her designer bag onto the chair. "I am busy." "Did Sophie tattle on me again? Just because of some old furniture?" I sat next to Grandpa. I didn't lower my head anymore. I looked straight at her. Grandpa didn't answer. He signaled to the lawyer. The lawyer slid a piece of paper across the polished table toward my mother. "What is this?" She frowned, picking it up. An eviction notice, Grandpa said. His voice was terrifyingly calm. Eviction? Mom laughed, a shrill, high-pitched sound. Dad, are you joking? That is my house. It is my house. Grandpa slammed his hand on the table. The sound made the baby jump and everyone in the room flinch. I let you live there so you could raise Sophie. But you turned my home into a marketplace where you sell your own daughter's belongings to support your niece. You have lost the right to live under that roof. My mother's face went from red to ghost white. Dad, you can't do this. I am your daughter. You are going to kick me out on the street because of this ungrateful brat? That ungrateful brat, he pointed a shaking finger at me, is the only person in this family who has never tried to exploit me. You sold the watch I gave her. That is theft, Linda. It was only $300. She screamed. The family is in crisis. The actual appraised value of that watch is $5,000, the lawyer interjected coldly. And that amount, plus the value of all the furniture you sold, will be deducted from your final allowance payment. After that, you will not receive a single penny more. That moment. The moment I saw the arrogance on my mother's face shatter into pure panic. She turned to me, her eyes filling with tears, the weapon she always used to manipulate me. Sophie, please. Do something. Are you going to let him do this to me? I raised you. I looked at the woman who gave birth to me. I remembered the text message, live in the storage room. I reached out and squeezed my grandfather's hand, feeling the warmth of his skin. You raised me, Mom, I said, my voice shaking but my resolve hard as steel. But you chose to sacrifice me to feed Jessica. So now, you can ask Jessica to feed you. I turned away, leaving her crying and begging behind me. Walking out of that office, the sky was still gray, but I felt the sun rising inside my chest. So, what is my life like now? My mother is living in a small, rundown rental apartment. Jessica was forced to get a job as a cashier at a grocery store. They still call me, leaving voicemails cursing my name. But I blocked their numbers. I am living with Grandpa Robert. Every afternoon, we drink tea and tend to the rose garden together. I never found that watch. But Grandpa gave me something much more valuable, a key to a bank safety deposit box in my own name, and a lesson that I want to burn into the mind of everyone watching this video. My friends, sharing DNA is not a free pass for someone to abuse you. If your family treats you like a resource to be harvested, sell your fear and buy your freedom. Don't wait until they push you into the storage room to realize your worth. Set your boundaries today. If you found this story helpful, please share it. Maybe someone out there who is trapped in the family first trap will find the courage to stand up. I am Sophie. And this is how I reclaimed my life.